Topic 1. Discursive oral genres in professional and academic fields. Genre. Are genres really out there in the world, or are they merely the constructions of analysts? Is there a finite taxonomy of genres, or are they in principle infinite? Are genres timeless Platonic essences or ephemeral time-bound entities? Are genres culture-bound or transcultural? Should genre analysis be descriptive or prescriptive? In answer to the first question, they are definitely out there. When we watch a horror movie, for example, we expect to be scared. If we go to a lecture, we expect to be informed. Is there a finite taxonomy of genres? Well, genres are finite and are growing and diminishing at the same time. So they are not timeless. Genres can disappear, and of course, new genres can appear. Are they culture-bound? Without a doubt, some genres are. But in this day and age, cultural boundaries are often crossed. Should they be descriptive or prescriptive? Certainly, here we are only interested in describing them, but we are all limited by what is expected of each genre. And people will expect you to conform to their expectations of what each genre is. Language and context. In Halliday's Language as Social Semiotic, language is seen as a form of socialization. We perform within what Halliday calls contexts of situation. Academia would be a macro context of situation, the environment in which language is used. Within academia, there are situation types such as seminars, classes, vivas, talks, keynote talks, etc. In these situation types, to a certain extent, linguistic interaction becomes conventionalized. There are links between contexts of situation and semantic and lexico-semantic patterns or features. For example, when finishing the introduction to a guest speaker, we might say, and now, without further ado, Professor Higgins. You wouldn't do this if you were introducing the same person during a coffee break. As we have seen, Halliday uses the term register rather than genre. However, subsequently, Martin introduces the notion of purpose, that is, the function of a register within a culture, and adopts the term genre or context of culture. Register. Here we're going to look at register a little bit more closely. Here we see the three components of context of situation, that is field, tenor, and mode, which we will look at in a moment, and their counterparts in language, the metafunctions, ideational, interpersonal, and textual. These can be analyzed at three levels: discourse semantics, lexicogrammar, and phonology graphology. The first level of register, the context of situation, involves field, that is the main social activity taking place; tenor, that is the participants and how they relate to one another; and mode, that is if it's spoken, written, written to be spoken, synchronous, asynchronous. In an academic presentation, field would be what is presented. For example, here I'm giving a little talk about genre. The tenor, how the audience is engaged by the speaker, for example, a level of formality, and mode would be the type of communication used in the lecture, for example, verbal or visual. What happens at the level of context of situation has parallels in the language. As we said before, there are three metafunctions: ideational, interpersonal, and textual. Ideational is basically construing the world as events, entities, and circumstances. This can be normally seen in the vocabulary, and this corresponds roughly to field. Interpersonal refers to ways in which we interact with others in the expression of relationships, values, and attitude, for example, through modal verbs. It corresponds to tenor. Textual refers to the organization of text discourse, what is made explicit, what is assumed as background knowledge. This can often be seen through conjunctions, anaphora, and theme rime. It corresponds to mode. Oral academic genres, for example, lectures, seminars, academic presentations, keynotes, project meetings, and vivas, that is, the defense of master's and PhD dissertations, among others. Lectures. The purpose is normally to deliver new information to students. Regarding the field, we have a setting, which is normally a large lecture hall, a theme, the subject of what is being talked about, the field of study, the discipline, could be biology, literature, chemistry, whatever. The tenor, the lecturer is normally accompanied by a large number of students. The language and the behavior of the participant is normally formal. The lecturer is normally seen as an expert and the student as a novice. The mode is face-to-face. This can be on-site, that is in the lecture hall, or also nowadays, to a great extent, can be distal, that is at a distance, for example, through a video conference. Normally, it takes the form of a spoken monologue, so obviously there are words, and then we have images on slides, and on the part of the students, we have note-taking. Seminar, to discuss topics introduced in the reading material given to the students and also in the lectures to ascertain students' knowledge of the subject. The field, well, normally the setting is a seminar room, and as before, the theme depends on the discipline we are talking about. Tenor, we have a lecturer and normally a small number of students. The language and behavior tends to be a little bit more informal rather than formal. Mode, once again, face-to-face, but it's spoken dialogic interaction rather than a monologue. And there are questions and answers and note-taking. Academic presentation or keynotes. The purpose is to share knowledge on specific subjects, or in the case of keynotes, normally it's to offer an overview of part of the field. If it's an academic presentation, it's normally in a small room or smallish room. If it's a keynote, normally a lecture hall. And of course, the theme would be the field of study, the discipline. Tenor, the tenor is different. It's also formal, but the participants are academic peers. The mode, once again, face-to-face, spoken monologue, but also in the question and answer section, there is spoken interaction. Notes are normally taken on the part of the audience. Project meetings, well, the purpose is to discuss and develop projects, to see what has been done and what needs to be done. The field normally is in a small room, and the theme is the subject of the project, what the project is all about. The tenor normally involves peers, and it generally, from my experiences, is much more informal, but there are formal aspects too. The mode, face-to-face, there are spoken reports, spoken interaction, questions and answers. Normally everyone takes notes in a project meeting. Vivas, purpose is to examine students' knowledge of a subject, setting normally a room, and the theme is the theme of the subject of the dissertation. Tenor, we normally have academics on one side and one student. Tends to be very formal and ceremonial. The mode is face-to-face, normally a monologue, but this time the monologue is given by the student, and then there's a Q&A section where the academics ask the student questions. Okay, let's have a look at the lecture, but from the point of view of context of situation and its connection with the lexicogrammar. For example, imagine we're talking about biology, that's the field. There would be biological lexis or vocabulary, verbs of existing and being, verbs of doing and happening. Regarding the tenor, we would have, as we have seen, lecturers and students. The language mostly declaratives, that's statements, some directives or orders, for example, look at slide 3, and then interrogatives, for example, during the question and answer section. Mode is normally formal, it's a spoken monologue with breaks for questions or with questions at the end. Okay, we normally have, regarding the mode, as we saw before, I think, we have discourse markers to signal structure. Okay, right now, this tends to split up the different sections of the lecture. Okay, here are some references. You will have this video so you can look at the references if you so wish.